So I'm working on my t-shirt American flag that I'm doing. I wanted to share it with you and show you how I'm doing it and give you some ideas on something you can do. This big red piece is cut at 10 inches by 7.5 inches wide. And then I've cut some blue squares to go up in the corner to serve as the part where we put our star and so forth. This piece right here is 5 inches by 3.5 inches. And then grab you some lace, any kind, depending on what you want to go with. This one, it has a beautiful fray on it. I'll actually be cutting that to place it here and sew it down. Also, I have some of the off-white, you can call that. I have some that has flowers on it. This one is really lacy, so I will cut that in like 3 sections and sew it. The other thing that I had here is I also had tea dyed my fabric. So as you can see, here's the blue. It's a different fabric than this one. This one has the smaller stars, and you can see it has kind of that tie-dye look effect to it. Ombre, where it has like the darker blues and lighter blues. And then you can see the stars and how good it turned out being tea-dyed. So if you're wanting like something that looks more primitive and off-white looking, along with the tan look, your blue and tans, which is my favorite. So this is the direction I'll be going. But what's really cool is you can use your white laces. You can use your off-white laces. Either way, they will match. And you see how beautiful. So it really depends on you. You can also do like the letters USA. You can cut those out and sew them down. Now, next question would be, do you want to use a stabilizer? You could use a piece of flannel. You could use your heat and bond to stabilize this. Either way, if you're going to put it on a t-shirt, you can also go ahead and do these in strips and iron them on to the heat and bond and then just iron them into place. So I'm planning on sewing mine. Now what I'll do is up here in this upper corner, I will take the blue square and I'll sew it into place. I'll just sew it down. But underneath, I may use a piece of flannel. I might use batting, whichever. But I'm going to sew on top and leave mine kind of raggedy because I like that frayed look. If you're not wanting any frays, you definitely want to do like some heat and bond on the back of it beforehand. Or, so that it doesn't have the raw edges. And then you can still sew it down. Those are just a few things I'm planning to do. Options for stabilizer is you have the Sure Tailor. And this is a lot of times a stabilizer that it's fusible. You iron it into place. And as you can see right here, shirt collars, cuffs, t-shirts, quilts, lightweight to medium weight, woven and knitting shirtings. Adds crisp shape for a professional look. That way, if you don't want to do batting or you don't have any flannel, but you do have stabilizer, this is another option. This interfacing is great because it irons into place. And it's simple. You just basically are going to place your cut fabric on there and iron it on. And then when you sew your other pieces, this will, stay firm. And also when you go to put it onto your t-shirt, if you have a t-shirt, as long as you're just laying it flat, not stretching your t-shirt, you'll be able to sew it in place. Or you can actually use some Stitch Witchery. You could use Heat and Bond Light, whichever. But this gives you a backing if you are wanting a backing so that when you start sewing, you don't have that pulling effect. So I am going to put a stabilizer on mine because I will be making my flags for different folks. And that way they can put it on a pillow, a t-shirt, or wherever they would like to place it. And it would look great in a frame as well. So those are some ideas. So this is the flags finished. So I had sewn the blue, which is the one that's 5 by 3.5. I selected my lace, and once I sewed it on, I took and sewed this part and cut the center out and sewn it here. And I just did a zigzag on it. I did the same down here. That made this one, as you can see, this one's the white, the real white stars. Now, the rustic one, I did put my Southern touch on it. I put the one that was more dainty. It had the tassels on it. This is 100% cotton lacing. And when I sewed it, it's very wide as well. So this is how wide it is. And I cut it in the center. So I did the upper and cut it and then sewn that on. And I did the same down here. And then that way it gave a little fray edge about the top. And then over time this will get a little more frayed down at the bottom edge. And that's how lovely they turned out. This is the wider one as I spoke about. I cut it in 3 sections because it has this really beautiful lacing of a flower like. And then this is the center. It has like a crisscross. And then, of course, the top edge as well. And the way it runs, I literally had to cut that, sew it, and cut it and sew it because of the way it comes off of its roll. But this one right here was coming off correctly, so I could just go from left to right. But that's how my flags turned out. So these are ready to be either put some heat bond light and iron it directly to the t-shirt and or shirt or pillow, or it can be sewn down just like that because it has the stabilizer, so it's not going to shift or move. The idea would be to keep the t-shirt in place so it doesn't shift or stretch or move. So there you go. There's you an idea to make you a flag of your own and put it on your shirt. You can make these fancier, add a star, decorate them up, add a lacy pinwheel there. You could do a flower, rosette flower or something. Just really, the sky's the limit. I'm going to leave them just like this because I'll be offering these for sale and see how it goes. That way people can attach these to a cloth shirt, a t-shirt, or a pillow of their own. Hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think and leave me a thumbs up. In working on the patriotic stuff for 4th of July celebration, I am making pinwheels. Now, all you'll do is cut a 5 by 5 inch square piece of fabric. You'll need one for each side. So, as you can see here, I have this side and this side. Now, I used some Heat and Bond Light iron-in stabilizer. So here is the Heat and Bond Light iron-on stabilizer. It will give it that stiffness because we are making pinwheels. So you'll just cut this to the size that you need for your fabric. You'll use your dry heat setting for your cotton setting on your iron. And it only takes like 10 to 15 seconds to fuse the fabrics together. So your result is you have your fabric, you have your stabilizer on the inside, and then you have your fabric on the back. They are really truly permanently fused together. You can wash them, launder them, or whatever. You can put a stitch around it. I just thought the stitch would make it a little more attractive so it wouldn't have that plainness to it and just give it a little oomph. I did put a cross in the center of mine, but I don't know if this is actually going to work out. We'll see here shortly because we now need to cut this, and you're going to stay an inch from the center because you do not want to cut your center. You don't want to cut it all the way in half. So the angles I have there are just for me to see. Now I'm going to actually fold it in half, and you can just follow your crease line. So if you didn't have thread there like I have, and then fold it the other way, that way you get that little crease. And you could probably do these 4 by 4. I don't, you just have to test your size. But I did a 5 inch by 5 inch square, and I did different colors. So here is a red with the blue. That one I did these little stars I have. I also have some of my homespun. This is the beige ticking. It's so soft. I love it. And then, of course, I have my red ticking, and I did red. I just did different variations so that all of my pinwheels will look beautiful and have color to them and depending on when I cut it as to what they're going to look like. So let's do the cutting. So the cutting is real easy. Like I said, you're going to stay an inch away from the center. So here we are. We are an inch away from the center. See how it's kind of got that star to it? You're going to cut diagonal. So make sure you're cutting on diagonal. That's why we folded on the diagonal. Now here is where it gets really clever and neat. Actually, I'm going to let the blue show more vibrant. So let me move all this out of the way here at the machine. And you're going to take your upper wing and bring it to the center. I'm trying to do this one-handed. So there you have that one. And you can sew or glue these into place. So remember, you're going to be doing these on the angle. Then you'll have this one going to the center, and you can glue them. Like I said, I'm just showing you until I can get my hands free. And then you're going to have this one go to that furthest angle and bring it in. And then that way you get your little pinwheel. Whoops, lost one. And voila, you have this beautiful little pinwheel. So I'll get that glued down and then I can show you better. And you can stitch it in the center as well if you needed to hold it into place. Now, since I was sitting here at the sewing machine, I actually just put a stitch there in the center, a little basting stitch, a little X there to hold it into place. And I just need to clip my threads, but look how beautiful. Now, what I'll do is I'll add a bell and I'll put me a wooden skew there and glue that on, and you have your own little pinwheel. And you can mix them up and make them all kinds of beautiful colors. So there's you an easy, quick, easy to make, and of course you can glue this, and once you iron this on you don't need to stitch it. I just thought the stitch would look a little neater to go around it, but that is not required. You could leave them just like they are. You could use crimping shears whenever you clip your fabric. That gives it a beautiful little shape. You could glue some kind of trim around the edging if you wanted to, but the plainness is what makes these so beautiful. And this is really pushing the limits with a 5-inch, so you could do a 4-inch and they would look gorgeous as well. So you see how big that turns out with 5-inch. You're looking at 7 inches from corner to corner whenever you have a 5-inch square and it's on the angle. So they're very beautiful, and you could make them turn if you wanted to. But with the fabric and all, they'll keep them clean, easy to dust, easy to maintain, and you can make a bundle of them. They're just beautiful. With the bells added into the center, you can see these are quite adorable. You can make different variations. Your fabric is really going to depict that. And while you're at it and you have your fabric laid out, make some of the messy bows. These took like 23 to 26 strips, and they are quite beautiful too. Another thing you can do for the 4th of July is the paper dolls. And this is the Uncle Sam that I have printed off. I'll be sure to leave you a link down below so that you can print this off as well. I've just got some board from a cereal box, and I'm going to trim this out, take off this white, but I want to make sure that I glue this onto my cardboard. Now, because I want this side to show on the back side, unless you use some colored paper, I'm actually going to glue it on this side. And then that way, when I cut my parts out, I will see this backboard, and that can be easily covered. Now, what I use with this is I actually use some of the Scott Create permanent glue pen, and it has a dauber on one side and of course a point to squirt it out on the other end. And I usually use my sponge side to put that down, and it dries really good and permanent, and I don't have to worry about any rolled up edges. Now, when you look at your paper, if you read really carefully, it shows you a diagram of what Uncle Sam should look like from the back. And I know you can read that real clear on the camera. And then right here, this is the method of tying your working strings so that when you pull your arms and legs, they will move. And this is just a way for you to see it. And then, you know, take a small piece of the string, see, take a small piece of the string, tie a knot at the end, passing other end through holes marked X, and tying a knot at the other side. And then you have your, for the purpose of your strings right here. So that's just look at your instructions. I'll be putting this together. I'm going to glue mine down. Now I've got all my parts cut out, and as you can see, these are going to go to the back. I have my awl here, and you can go ahead and line up your Uncle Sam. And so the reason why you have these double holes right here is for the knotting purpose when you network your string. So I have me some cotton string, and this works really, really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my awl and make sure that I just get a hole in there large enough, you know, for my cotton thread to go through, and push it through the front. That way any of the spreading out of your cardboard will be in the rear, and they'll just make it a whole lot easier. So momentarily, and that way when your glue is good and dry, your board should be good and smooth and shouldn't have any problems cutting that out. Now when you start out, you need to go ahead and attach his legs down here, because those just need to be a single tied string and connected together, and they will be part of the network on your pulling string. So if you go ahead and just get those tied together, because you'll be clipping that string on those, they are just attached parts, and you'll understand. So just get these two pieces together. Make sure that this fatter part is behind the one with the shoe, and you want to put that string in there going in this way and going through the other one. Alright, when you do this string, make sure that I double my knot. I just put it on top of each other and did the same thing back here, but make sure it's loose. You don't want that tight, because you want Uncle Sam's leg to move. So just be sure that when you do your knot and you double it up, that you leave yourself that looseness there, because you don't want that to, be tight. You want it to be loose so that his legs move freely and you're not having any kind of issue. And if you feel like you need to, like I usually put a little bit of glue on my knot just to make sure it stays real good and tight and gives it a little bit of firmness. And good old Elmer's glue is the best for doing that. So I'll trim off this extra string we got hanging here. We're not going to need that. And the good thing is, if your Uncle Sam comes apart, you can always just tie it back with some string. Alright, now we got that and going. I'll do this one the same way. So going back to this, the two holes I was telling you about, so one will be tying on to the actual Uncle Sam. So you'll go through here, tie you a knot, and tie you a knot. Do the same here. You're just adding parts on. The upper hole is for the puppet string. So don't put any thread through it. You just want this bottom hole and attach it. So put your knot here, knot it in the back, and get your parts attached. Same down here. Leave this hole blank. Do not put a string through it. This is going to be your puppet string. You'll use this lower hole to connect it to here. So right now we're just putting his parts onto his body, and then I'll show you how to network your string to make it into a puppet. Still working on Uncle Sam here. I wanted to show you how I've got this network going. So you tied all your joints on, and then I am putting a single string, leaving at least an inch there so that these are very mobile when you pull on the string. You want it to be more mobile when you're pulling that string. And then the same for the legs. We want it to be really mobile. And I don't know all that got. Make sure your arm gets turned around. So that way it's really mobile. So it's about 1 inch difference. You want them to be loose and dangly. So now making the network string for the puppet itself. And then you probably want like a bead to pull on it with all puppets. So what I'll do is I'll take my string and I want to try to get that in the center when I'm pulling on it. So I want to try to get the string itself centered. You know, you don't have to be an exact science, but you want to get it pretty close to the center in there. And then once you feel like it's pretty centered, you can then put a knot so it won't be sliding around on you. And just that, this is what I'm doing for me, how I'm working it. You may do yours a little bit different and situate it. You can pretty much use a single strand, I guess, if you wanted to. So this way, when I come down here, I'm going to make sure I give myself a lot of grace on my string. And then that, make sure that's relaxed. Whenever you go to tie this string down here, you want to make sure these are in their lay position, relaxed position, so that they're not pulling or yanking or being stressed until you get your network string tied on. So just hold that firmly. And then I'll take and run my string there, keeping that as centered as possible without stressing it. So I need to bring that down a little bit more before I tie it. Okay, so now you can see I have my single strand going here, and now when I pull, all his body parts will be moving. And now I can put me a bead down here at the bottom. And with this right here, I'm going to make sure now that I've got it where I want it, now I can put it into a knot. Just give it a little more strength. And then add a bead down here. And keep his limbs moving. So how you like that? We made our Uncle Sam puppet. Ta-da! Be sure to download from the link in the description box to get your Uncle Sam puppet. This will be nostalgic for collect's sake. In the Target spot, I got these wooden stars, and I took them home and I added a little bit of wire. I created my own postcard, so I'll be sure to also leave a link where you can download these. And this was ephemera I added to those wooden stars. Now have a happy 4th of July and celebrate it grandly with this 250-year celebration. And be sure to save this video and do these projects. Until the next DIY, this is Elizabeth. I'll be crafting y'all.